Okay, so this is going to be on forms, like kung fu forms, katas, like why, what are you doing, what are you practicing, what's going on. A couple of things, one of which is just memory, right? So like when you memorize something, you've kind of driven it into the depths of your being. So you can use the memorization. I don't know. You could probably use it to memorize anything. Like memorizing anything would work, but I'm sure there's a different effect on if you memorize something like good versus memorizing something bad or memorizing something nonsensical. But the memorization is the act of going deeper into the mind. So without memorization, you can't think very deeply, and you don't know the deeper recesses of your mind. So these like big waves of thought required for a deeper understanding of like kung fu, but also a deeper understanding of philosophy in general requires movement. So you want to memorize as many forms and katas as possible, and if you memorize the form or the kata of a particular group, like a living spirit, that will, almost drive like an antenna or drive connection to that body of knowledge, like deep into the body. So, when you're doing katas, like the type of kata that you're doing and where it comes from very much does tie you to particular motivational currents and patterns of behavior. So just have that in mind. This is going to be taught kata free, right? In turn, like it'll be working the same thing as a kata, but with no lineage, right? So there's when you're doing forms, there's basically like two types of teaching. One of which attaches you via repetition, and that repetition can be for generations, right? If you do, a punch, or if you do a squat, if you do a repetition over time, that develops this like pattern there, and then that helps you out in the future. And you see that as like a harder punch, or the patterns that you drive in are just already happening as you do the repetition, right? So you notice that happens with yourself, but it also can happen via generations, via lineage. So it's like everyone being in a wave pool, and you can hop on that lineage. So that's why it's such a big deal in some cases to be accepted by a group, is because they have tremendous habitual power, right? It's the same. It's kind of similar to money, in terms of its energetic form. But it does have a direction, so you become part of that movement, and you go in the direction of that group. So there's that type of thought, and that's everything from like the whole Western body of literature, the Eastern body of literature, the Christian body of literature, Islam, Buddhism, all of those things. As you like memorize them, if you don't memorize them, then obviously it doesn't really take effect, and you don't really get into the thing. The cursory, you don't memorize it. So there's that style of teaching. And that includes even like science is the same exact style of teaching. It's like because of this habitual pattern of focus and behavior in science, you get these technology trees that lets you, do pipette work and molecular biology or plasma physics and stuff like that. But it's with these like machined tools that require, like, you can't even make a screwdriver on your own, much less assemble a piece of equipment. So science, like what you see in terms of science, and like in terms of like a person working at CERN was just born, but then they're standing on this momentum and this pile of like engineering and scientific skill and ways of looking at it and using reality, of manipulating it, right? Like just moving your hand back and forth is manipulating reality. So if you look at reality in a particular way, like the scientific materialism that led to, like, say, the Large Hadron Collider, you have everything from like the ability to make the wires, to make the cylinders, to make the magnets, to dig the earth, to blah 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 blah. There's this big inertia behind it. So that same And then that big inertia is like, oh, then the scientist, like, be they, the good scientist or like an evil secret scientist or a magic sorcerer, whatever they're doing there, who knows, right? They can stand on the momentum of all of that, and then like they're capable of doing this crazy experiment or moving things in this crazy way. They seem powerful, but it's actually the whole group. Like when somebody does something standing on the end of one of these waves, you could hardly say that it was them doing it. So there's that. And you can jump into different groups like that. All the different trades, carpentry, electricians. You hop into this movement, this body of knowledge, and then that gives you the skills to, build a house, smash an atom, throw a punch, attain samadhi, like whatever. And that's done just by connecting with the group, relaxing into the momentum of that lineage. And then there's other teachings that is like it's not different from that, because we're in this pattern of inheritance, right? So like even if somebody was teaching you something beyond religion, it's not going to cause you to leave your religion or leave your traditions or leave anything. You'll see what you're in, right? So all of the people teaching formlessness outside of a tradition, outside of a religion, they're entirely all of them are full of shit. It's crazy. It's kind of funny, like if you see how things work. It's the only thing outside of our traditions is into. It's just not where we are. It's not what we are. It's like we're here. So to go outside of the tradition in terms of the prophetic sense is to feel that water that we're in directly. Where is it taking us? That's where we look to tradition. But to feel what is taking us, that's where you look to a prophet or somebody talking about something that's not in your tradition, is what you would say a prophet, but they are talking about your tradition. So the prophet speaks of God. The tradition is what God is doing. So if people are not listening to the tradition, they're not listening to what God is saying, then you get the prophetic voice, which has certain characteristics about it, being sort of a liminal creature, adding simply calling attention to the divine presence, right? So that's going to be, when you're doing a form, you're fundamentally running into this divine presence, and that's the correct movement. So if you let's do a form or a kata that's just like, I don't know, something like this, right? So I'm wanting to very simply, you can imagine feeling your whole body, right? I am. You have that same experience. And then to feel the consciousness, the divine presence within which we swim, it is water. Right, so when the movement pattern of running into the blood, right, running into where your life force is coming from, right, it's emerging out of the blood. The way that you're going to press into the blood is exactly how you press into water, because the blood is fluidic, and the energy within it is also fluidic. So to do a section of a kata, you're swimming. And I would say, imagine as if you're underwater. If you actually do this underwater via the long snorkeling method that I've done, you can directly feel this thing that's so obvious yet, I guess, incomprehensible, because nobody's doing it or talking about it, or nobody's doing it consciously. Nobody's looking at it, as far as I can tell. They're swimming, right? That's what makes a dancer is when they're swimming, when they're connected to floating, being moved by a tradition. And so if and so you're never going to do if you're you would pursue this path because it's like, oh hey, you saw some cool people on the internet doing crazy tricks and doing like breakdancing or the robot or whatever. So you would maybe get into this sort of thing of doing katas of like, oh man, that martial artist is doing it. But if you can't use your awareness of God to cause anything to happen. So your tricks it's very open-ended. It's like it feels good, but unless you have the habitual behavior of throwing, I would have to have drilled doing flips on land or getting my awareness up and over for me to actually just spontaneously be able to do that, right? So even though you may be much more connected to your source of being than somebody next to you doing crazy tricks that you can't do, because of their conditioning, they can do the tricks. You might not be able to do the tricks because you lack the conditioning, but you can be at a more masterful level of what's happening. Like if you focus on that or allow it, rather than trying to do something that's like not really there, not really needed. So when you're doing the kata, you can practice, so you already know what's going to happen. It's driving in there with its memory, and just the movements are simple, so you can do it over and over and over again and make sure that every part of your body is participating and swimming through consciousness. Like I'm like going into my toes because that's not there, but then it's like you can just practice like everything. How do I get everything and that everything is the inertia or the momentum of the water. So when you're moving, it almost feels like you're starting to learn how to move the space, like something much larger than your body, and respond to that, or see how it has to flow. Like if you had a kata and it goes from like here to like there, to stay in with all this stuff perfectly takes a lot of practice. And then as you're doing it over and over and over again, you're burning that into the memory. So like when you read a book, it's like the mind waves are just doing this thing, but if you like burn like the movement pattern of a dance or a form or a kata or a ritual, something like the Eastern Orthodox liturgy or other rituals, if that ritual, if the body shapes and the forms has meaning, right? If the elements of the ritual has meaning, just like the elements of the scrawling on paper has meaning, the elements of a ritual, a kata, a form, can have meaning, and then you're like memorizing that the same way that you memorize reading a book. And so as you memorize reading a book, you can gain information, you can gain knowledge. Right? So as you memorize a form, as you memorize a kata, as you memorize a ritual, and the way that you memorize a ritual is by being present when you read it. Right? And being present as you do the ritual is the same type of presence that you have when you're reading a book. It's the same exact presence as when you memorize lines of a play. And so this is the redemption of the mind, because most people go, oh, when I'm in my mind, I'm distracted from reality. I'm not present. right? The way to bring the mind back to presence is to that same attention within which we can memorize a ritual and actually have it inform us the way that information informs our body and our mind and our book. That is the mind connected with the body, and that's a higher state of presence than the animal mind or the disassociated heavenly mind. So that's really all that you can practice when you're doing forms and katas. Kata, karate. Hey, everybody, do karate. What? And really, if you let go of the bloodlust of why ever you got into martial arts, of like, oh man, I want to develop the ability to run my entire arm through somebody's head, right? Like if you let go of that bloodlust, those movements that you would use running your arm into somebody's head are just pretty cool spirals to study. So there's like a non-violent level of autism that's available to people. Woo! 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 So you know how, what's that motto of like, CrossFit and movement guys, like, I can't do what you do at your sport, but I can do every other sport, and like, or so, I guess this hosing model would be, we're really bad at what we do, and that makes us almost as good at what you do. And if somebody was really good at what we do, they would be way, 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 way way better at what you do than you do. If you wanted to make it a contest, I mean, I'm saying that all in jest. I hope everybody understands that. But, like, what do you got to do to win a few bucks around here? Like, in science, like, there's a ton of money in science. Can anybody send some of that money? I want to do science, and I'm really smart. Or, like, healthcare or physical training and stuff. I would love to do that stuff, but nobody will hire me or give me any money. So I'm just kind of in survival mode all the time, even though I'm fairly sure I found the cure for like everything, because the stuff I'm doing with the tub, not even scratching the surface with it. Like the effects that it has on you, like if you're in a current, like so if you're underwater breathing in a current, the degree to which it flushes your energy system is difficult to comprehend in terms of its effects. Like it is. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do in just a small little infinity pool using the hose thing to really connect the breath with the movement of the water. Without being underwater and breathing through the snorkel, there's no way to really connect your breath to the movement of the water, so it goes around you. Like when your breath is connected to it, the movement of the water is you can relax, and all the movement of everything, which is usually stillness. But if you do it in a river or an ocean, it's not stillness, it's waves, it's current, and that just does things to the energy system that is difficult to comprehend. To me, it seems like a panacea. At least in terms of physical education, and physical education is the foundation of intellectual education. It's like it's a completely safe, easy. It's not shocking like cold water therapy or like exercise. It's an extremely safe and reliable way to radically increase the awareness and consciousness and skill of a person's breathing, and to quiet down their nervous system so that their perception increases. Like just connecting the breath to still water calms the breath, calms the nervous system, instantly increases internal proprioception, and so the body sort of auto-corrects to the same degree that it would with getting a massage, where excuse me, the person's gotta stop smoking cigarettes, you know. The person's yeah, the silence of the water. The water is like the key of silence. So you relax into that, allow the pressure to, like, you know, crush in on your lungs. Unlike scuba diving, unlike free diving, both have the breathing kind of disconnected from the pressure differential between the surface and. So with this, that pressure differential connects the movement of the water to you. So in a still tub, it's just it's stillness, so the nervous system quiets down. Yeah, and you get just as much proprioception from that as you would any sort of traction or rhythmic kneading motion for massage. So it does all that, and then just being more aware of all that stuff makes you smarter. You understand what you're doing. There's like this crazy synergistic feedback loop, especially if you're training anything hard. You get, because it's like you get the insights from the water, and the water apply it to the training, and it's it's pretty wild. I don't know like what exactly I have to. I got three kids. I don't have time. Like I barely train, and I'm stressed and depressed and all the time. So I'm trying to be able to do like a one-arm handstand or some crazy trick or whatever, but it's like it's kind of hard because it's like I just have tons of children and tons of work to slowly run out of money. So like I'm trying to be as impressive as I can under that load, just by demonstrating generalized intelligence, hopefully tying what I'm saying to your intuitive understanding of like what's true, to kind of like say, hey, like everything I'm saying is true. Like, so I reference, known shared truths, and I say, hey, look at how this is connected to what I'm saying. Look, it's not disconnected. What I'm saying isn't in disagreement with anything, really. It's like yeah. So that connection to reality is like cool. I like it, but it would be cool to do science or share, that insight with anybody. I've begged people to talk to me on podcasts or stuff or emailed. All the cool people out there that I think are like really interesting, and it's, just get ignored. I've tried trolling people. I troll everybody pretty hard, and nobody responds to me then. And I don't know. I think I'm onto like the coolest shit out there. Everything else is rehashed garbage, all part of the agenda. Like everyone else is just like moving on the momentum of the agenda, and I'm saying like, hey, let's get on a different vibe here, like a totally different vibe, not a disassociated vibe, not one that's away from your ancestry or your body or your parents or your gender or anything else. Like, let's not run away from any of that. Let's not protest anything. Let's not be Protestant, right? Let's not be dualist, right? Where did we come from? We are all that, right? So I'm not taking anybody into any sort of cult. I want you to stay in your cult even deeper, right? But we could do cool science. There's cool science. I think there's ways to make electricity that are cheap, easy, dependable, affordable. There's ways to there's ways to understand what oil is, where it comes from. There's ways to understand the biosphere, the climate, all the different ways that the stars and the sun and the planets all connect together into a synergistic system. The way that all of that's very cool. And we could even learn more about the molecular biology realm. The realm of molecular biology, there seems to be a lot of confusion there. What is it? What's going on down there? Where is our mind? We're here, so how deep does our consciousness go? Do we have sovereignty over our atoms? Do we have sovereignty over our DNA? Where is the mind there? How does it interact? What's the mind-body connection at the genetic level? We should figure that out. We should think about that a lot, all of us collectively. It should be a normal conversation. There should be pundits on the evening news, talking about how is it that we relate to the genetic level? How is it that we relate, I feel in my hand here, where is that experience coming from? What is it resting on? What am I at a deeper level? The news should be contemplating things like that every single night. If you're gonna zone out for like 2 hours, like talking nonsense, look at what you're listening to, people. Everyone just chill out. If you're really pissed off at people, or you think that I don't know, if there's just let yourself just consider yourself retarded. Just say whoa, something went totally wrong here. Realize who you could be if you had been meditating, contemplating, pursuing excellence, looking for the cosmic patterns in reality, looking for the meaning in suffering. Think about who you could have been versus whatever you turned into, not like that, and just say that man, that's what I'm supposed to be, is the person that was doing that, and then what I am is that's just dumb. So since you're dumb, you can go, all my opinions are dumb, all my beliefs are dumb, all my thoughts are dumb. I put everything together wrong. Everything together wrong. And I guess I think that's a scary thing to do, but the evidence is overwhelming. Just let it sink in. I'm an idiot, right? I'm an idiot. I don't have to have any of these opinions or thoughts unless they make me feel good. and like really be an idiot. Don't be like, oh, I'm just the goddess, I'm so awesome, like I worship love and light, and or like I'm amazing. Just 100% idiot. And also like I like, oh, I'm so stupid, I suck. Like, no, you don't even know that. You don't even know that. You weren't aware of like what your essence was doing while your energies were doing that. You weren't even awake, right? And even upon awakening, it's like, oh, how could you possibly integrate that? Because how does that ever end up here? And that's a hard question, and I figured it out. Right? I figured it out. I'm in my tradition. I'm in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the foundation of Western thought. So that includes all the science. And so by aligning with all of the tradition, instead of cutting myself off to learn the science, by aligning with it, my thinking is just much deeper and much more powerful. And so this is no different than like when a rapper gets up and is like, yo, I'm the best, better than all the rest. I know you consider me a pest, but I was just suffering from pre-lest. But yeah, now I'm on a quest to be the best white rapper. I don't use a bidet after I take a crapper. I ate too many crackers. I got this PVC hose, I'm gonna whackers. I'm accepted by all the knackers. My Kickstarter has no backers. If I was able to do TRT, I would be even more powerful. My testosterone is probably around 58. If I got it up to 800, I would probably become the Chad meme, the Giga Chad. So the application for this move, right, is if like you've been shoved, right? So they shove you and you're like this. So then what do? You just go like that, right? Okay, I got shoved. Oh, so that's why it's in the form, you know? Excuse me, Sensei, can you please explain this move? How do we use this move? Well, let's say you've been pushed. And then you're like this, and they're right here, and so you go whack, 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 right in the nuts. And the hose is a very good peaceful weapon, right? This isn't gonna hurt anybody long term. Right? I think it's 1 inch, ½ inch. It fits, it almost fits in your pockets of your surf shorts. This isn't gonna escalate the fight either, right? If somebody, like, if you take this out and you're like, fuck you, I'm not gonna let you take my wallet, they're not gonna see you as that much more threatening. You're gonna seem a little, but like this thing slaps. This thing slaps hard. And so you, like, it, I mean, it hurts you in the worst possible way without hurting you. Right? You can't, like, I don't even think it's possible to, like, yeah, you just wail on somebody, like, freaking horrible, like, hurts so bad, because it actually does hit deep. Like, it hits really deep, but just, like, not quite deep enough to, like, break anything too bad. And so you don't have to hold back at all. It's kind of, like, I think this would be safer than, like, kicking them or actually punching. Like, I'd want to hold back a little bit if I was using my bones. But this thing, and you can whip it a little bit, but it's pretty stiff. It doesn't uncoil too much, right? So it kind of, this motion right here, like, kind of eats up the force a little bit, especially when you're just, like, going as hard as you can. So you can have, like, full whipping body mechanics and try and be as nasty as you want to be, and this will kind of hold back. So, like, if you wanted to just, like, if they're being an ass and you just want to toy with them and not really, but also just go all out and have fun, you can take out your hose and, like, really unload on them, and then this is going to make it so that you don't hurt them all that bad. Like, really bad bruises, you could knock somebody out with this, I think. Maybe not, though. Maybe it would just, like, keep them conscious. Anyway, this is a very merciful yet sadistic self-defense weapon in the hands of, like, somebody. It would really only be better when you're, like, genuinely the superior person, and they need to be kind of protected from you, and maybe you have pent up whatever. So this lets you kind of, like, maybe go harder than you should without hurting them, but still really, really hurt them bad. So this is the main weapon in hosing, and it also is, like, it legit is good against knives. Right, so it's good knife defense, and even, like, if they have something, it can definitely deflect. Like, if you wail on it, and then, yeah, you do have this. Like, so that's enough to eat up, like, a significant blow, like a bat. Like, it wouldn't be good if you blocked a bat with it, but it would help. Right, so it's good, and then it's freaking awesome against knives. You have this it's an anti-knife, definitely, and then it doesn't escalate things like a gun, right? So it lets you raise the stakes, I would say. Like yeah, if you're in a confrontation with a knife and you don't want to escalate it to a gun necessarily, and you genuinely, like, probably way better than the guy. If you're packing hose, it lets you make it safer for everybody, including the other dude, right? So, like, if you weren't because this sucks, right? Like, just smash the knife hand, smash their face. It's probably not going to knock them out. You can just keep smashing, and it it goes a long way that way. And then also, like, it's not gonna kill them, because, like, if there wasn't any compassion going on, I would say just have a gun. Somebody, like, pulls a knife on you, says they want your stuff, and you go, buddy, and you just kind of shoot them. That's obviously safest for you. It's not very compassionate for the other person. So I suggest the hose. Really, it's this niche spot for the very, like, sort of elitist. I do MMA, I do martial arts, I know how to fight, I know how to move. I'm high consciousness, right? You run into that lower consciousness, like, person, and your subtle, fluidic, sinewy yoga body and soft massage hands can just really go to town, right? So you'll find that there are all sorts of twisted fantasies contained within the male brain. And it is best to find some way to discharge that that energy in a healthy way. So the hose is really great for both training, right? Because you can also train with somebody pretty hard and like whack each other pretty bad, and it's not a bad injury, just bruisey. Like sucks, but also, you know, that's realistic. It's like a safe, realistic scenario, you know. So, we sell these on our website, Strip a Tube. This is $35.95. So just send that to P.O. Box 1142. Yeah, P.O. Box 1142, Hawaii 96708. So yeah, if you send me cash, I'll send you something. I'll send you this thing. It's actually $100. $100. 200. $333, $369. Okay, so for $369, sent to P.O. Box 1142, Haiku, Hawaii 96708. Kurt, I will send you a free hosey, so you can use this for snorkeling, actually, in a pinch. That's all you need. Or self-defense. It's a flow state training aid, right? As I have this object, I can extend my mind into the object, and I've expanded my consciousness by feeling the weight of the object, and then that lets me use it as a sail to add extra awareness, add extra energy to my body scanning or to my Qigong. And so this can actually enhance my meditative or my movement or my therapeutic practice by, you know, using its motion to run into and harvest ambient, you know, energy in the ether, just like a sailboat. So you can do that. You can get it in this big size. It comes a little skinnier, and it can come even bigger if you want. And so you could just think about it, like, what do you want it for? How long do you want it? What do you want to use it for? Like a long, you know, 5/8 or 1/2 inch one is like pretty awesome for like snorkeling a couple feet underwater and pursuing the transcendent mysteries of consciousness. But if you buy like a shorty fatty like this, it's useful for like laying a beat down. You could even extend this a little bit longer, right? And then you've got like a pretty long range, like very annoying, very painful weapon that is, like I said, it's almost sadistic in the amount of pain that it gives out, but so merciful in like the lack of damage that it's like it transfers the whip and absorbs the thump, and it somehow sends the whip. It makes the whip thump pretty deep, but you don't get any thump. Is how I would describe it. So that you get that effect with just this, and then if it's a little bit longer, it is like if you're playing, like, it sounds pretty sadistic, but I mean, imagine you're swinging a sword around or a spear around. In the back of your mind is this like sadism of like, oh yeah, what's the point of this? What is the point of this? That cut. The point of that cut is to cut somebody in half. So you might like weapons training, but in terms of like memorizing forms, there's a certain lethality to it that is cool, but you're fantasizing about that when you do katas, when you do martial arts. So like if you transition your weapons over to hose, you can still have that sadism of like, oh, what's the spear for? To frickin' run through somebody, right? So it's like, yeah, what's this hose for? to like cause massive pain and injury, but like, and humiliation even, but not hurt, not kill them, right? So it's like you can even learn how, like, I want to train like going all out 110%, most sadistic, just life-eating intent, you know, and just let it out, and it just comes out in this tube, and nothing, and you don't have, suddenly all this tube is just like, boom, I want to just stop the guy. I just want to like cause, you know, massive just deterrence, humiliation, right? I don't want to kill him. I don't want to hurt him with like a sword or even a stick, right? Like if I go as hard as I can with a stick and I'm like, you hurt them. You like crack their head open. It's not good. Even if you poke them with a stick, you can poke through them. So with the hose, you just get to turn the aggressive, hateful energy of destruction and fear and resentment, and just 100%, and then the hose expresses it. Like they feel that you don't like them. Like they feel really a lot that you don't like them and you don't want them there. They feel that. They feel all of it. The host transmits all of that with this like gentle mercy. And that's the nature of the hose in general. So you can have these really harsh lessons that would otherwise destroy you. You can take blows, right? By doing hose, like there's some types of stupidity that other forms of truth, when they deliver it, it's lethal. Right? It's like, it's lethal to learn how to use your back correctly sometimes, because it's like, oh, I'm so wrong. I've been bent in this weird way for so long. You can't take it. But with hose, it can deliver that same truth, and you survive it. Like it hurts, but it's survivable. And so that's the nature of the hose, right? You can see the nature of the hose by studying the hose, and the same thing is true of water. The same thing is true of God. And so, yeah, that's basically what's going on when you're doing form work. So by Hosga martial arts, our main weapon is the tube, right? And it's like, which tube, right? You could have a skinny tube, like you could use a shorter one, like a kubaton, right? Freaking, that would hurt real bad. And again, like you're not really like it doesn't quite go in. It's terrible, right? That would fit in your pocket, but you have different diameters and thickness of tubing. Is it braided or not? What material is it? Is it you know, there's many different types of hoses. And then how long is it? Does it have flotation attached to the end? What's the diameter of the wall? Like all that can change, and yet all of these practices are hose, right? So the person who's, you know, practicing how to block a knife attack with their hose is fundamentally doing the same practice as somebody who is 2.5 feet underwater, floating at a negative 15-degree angle, studying the mysteries of the breath as it rises into the upper part of the heart. Right, same thing. So the hose is very unified. All right, wow, 48 minutes. So wow, it's like a double.